for 2 years, you're getting out of hand. I'm sending you to your father in West Africa to live. It's not turn you into a man. You can leave my house, right?
Wow.
Mom sends us to West Africa, and I lived there for 4 years. And it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird, yo. I had housekeepers and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But we lived off the land in a very huge house, like a very huge house, 18 rooms. But we lived
Are
off the
you the
land.
oldest of all those boys?
Nah, I'm the seventh, the baby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So yeah, we lived off the land. It was like in a mansion, 18 rooms, and it wasn't any electricity. I didn't go to school or anything like that. We just
Oh,
had to do minimal work at home, and we just had books. That's it. At night, we lived off of a lantern and stuff like that. So we were. I mean, it showed me how to live off the grid. We got water from the well with the little contraption that was built around the house. So we lived off the land. Everything was good. Everything was kosher. And I learned a lot of things over there. Like, you'll be surprised what you could learn without any television or any
hmm.
electronics or video games or anything. It's like it forces you to get in tune with nature. You have no choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have no choice but to get in tune with it. But it was a pretty good place. It was a good place to live. Eventually, I'll go back to visit or something like that. Um, with that being said,
What about the culture? Like, is the culture the same? Do they like America there?
it's funny you say that. See, I'm 50-50 on that because growing up there, when I lived there, they saw me as privileged. I mean,
I mean, it kind of sounded like you were a little bit like
yeah, but
they
but
set up.
but
I kind of want to go visit there.
but this is like 1990 to 94. Like, I can't help it. I can't help it where I was born. Yeah,
Right.
you an American boy. You an American boy. And I'm like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? You're not one of us. You ain't grow up like us. You got a passport. Okay. With that being said, that's how I was treated there. Although some people showed me love in regards to American people, they are Africans are welcoming of or towards American people. I never heard the N word in my life over there. Never.
It's not even a thing there because it was like invented here, wasn't it?
Never heard that.
I
Never
mean,
heard that.
well, actually, if you go way, way back, it's a Sanskrit word, Naga, Naga, meaning supreme primordial one. It stands for the primordial snake of creation. So, like, in essence, it is actually a very, very positive thing. But I don't think
that
that in America,
that it
you,
does mean that, and then also that is actually Neger. That is a tribe in not West Africa, South Africa. You know what they would call Hottentots, right?
no, I never heard that. Hottentots?
Yeah, Hottentots were the people that clicks when they would talk. Click, click, click.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Their tribe, they have a particular tribe called the Neger tribe, Neger. So they were considered bush people.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, maybe there's some type of correlation with that, but yeah, it's not a thing. And I got to be honest with you, Leia, like the same culture that I experienced, the same atmosphere when I was there, it's the same thing in China. I saw the same products down to like the clothing, the the soap that they used to wash clothes. And this stuff was never imported from China to Nigeria at the time. When I was in China from 2015 to 2020, the same line of products I saw in Nigeria is the same products I saw in China. So,
Interesting.
and their cultures are very similar, very similar.
So like first of all, how? Second of all, what part of China? Like it's a pretty vast when you look at the big thing. And I know like we don't when I think about school, what we learned of China, it wasn't as detailed as places like, the United States. Like it was just they gave us so much information about this on the surface, but then China, it's like one big box. It's like, a city or something. But there's so many different varied environments there.
Leia, it's funny you say that. Growing up, we used to watch those kung fu movies, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So automatically, and it goes back to what you said, kind of like how when you will watch American TV, they'll promote and you'll see the kids in Ethiopia and Somalia dying and they got flies like flying around them and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, that could have been you. Like that's what I think of is like Sally Struthers.
Just another way to hustle you to send in money and then also to make it seem like we don't want you to go over there because this is what's really going on.
Oh, okay.
Come on, like every area in the world has its slums. Every area has its good parts. I'm looking at the Kung Fu movies as a kid and I'm thinking, okay, when I step foot in China, all I'm going to see are villages with the old roof structure, the old structures that look like the temples, right? Leia, I get there. Am I in the Bronx or something like that? It looks like the Bronx.
Oh, God.
KFC, McDonald's, Burger King. I'm like, what are we doing? I didn't come here for this. I already have that here. It's the same thing, yo, but it's a little bit, it's freedom there. Time is a little bit difficult. Like, and that's what I love about America. You can sit there, you can smoke a blunt. Nobody's going to say anything to you. You can smoke a joint, Philly, White Owl, you name it. Over there, if they catch you with a blunt or a joint, either they'll lock you up and you'll get the death penalty, they'll behead you, right? Or they'll hold you in one of their prisons and you don't want to be in a they'll hold you there, and then later on they'll deport you. It depends, but there's some people being held in those prisons just for marijuana.
Ah, that's a drag. That's terrible.
They don't because they, and I'm not saying anything negative, but it kind of goes back to it being a communist country. They don't want their people knowing everything. So if you go over there, there's no YouTube. No Facebook, no Instagram, none of that stuff. But it's strange they have TikTok. That's what I don't get. But it's none of that stuff.
Wow. So TikTok, is it still owned by the Chinese? And do they have that data?
I think so.
Wow. So what did you just stay offline and pretty much read books or what exactly? How did you get information?
There you go. You know what a VPN is, right?
VPN, virtual private network.
Exactly. You can use that sometimes to bypass and get to the internet here, like YouTube.
What? You're not scared as shit to do that? You would you're gonna see a bunch of Chinese cops come. I'd be scared as shit.
That's neither.
Did you know if it was safe or not? Like, how did you
They were watching. They were
told?
watching. Yeah, they were watching. Because I mean, they go off of social credit. If one person knows something, everybody else is gonna know
Okay.
it. They go off of social credit, you know, and off of it now is about to start meaning like, oh, okay, you do something bad, we're gonna limit your bus travel. We're gonna limit you going out of town. We're gonna limit you using the internet. We're gonna limit you
How
doing
would they
this.
limit?
Huh?
How do they limit? Like, you have to get a card to get on there. Maybe the card doesn't work or something.
It's like, yo, they'll just be like, you know, for that social credit stuff, you know, you try to get an Uber or something like that, your app, your phone number is all marked. And they're like, you know,
Oh,
okay, yeah, like level 3 threat, level 2 threat. This was going on during
so
COVID. It was going
yeah.
on during the COVID thing.
I don't know about China. That doesn't sound like a place I want to visit. My cousins lived there for a bit
It's a good
in
place.
Shanghai.
It's
Yeah,
a
she
good place.
loved it. She studied there.
It's a very good place, yo. And it kind of goes back to I can't trust TV like that. You seldom catch me watching the news because it's like, where did they get this information? Who's broadcasting it? So certain things I'll see about Chinese people on the TV, and I know it's not true. I'll see it like on an American TV station, and then propaganda. Then the Chinese people will show some about American. I'm like, I know this ain't true. So it's kind of like, you know what? If you ever now, like it's kind of like when in Rome, act like you're in Rome. I hate to say that, but that's just how it is. Uh-huh.
Wow.
They're very nice people, very welcoming people. They'll take care of you, but then just like anywhere, you got to watch your back over there because you're in their territory.
Hmm. But you're Chinese, right? So really it's your territory.
But correct. With that being said, if the average Chinese person saw me, they wouldn't know that because I'm tall, like I'm 6'6.5", and then my complexion. They wouldn't know. And then I grow hair like this. They wouldn't know.
Mm.
And it's funny you say that, Leah. I remember, because my mother was the type of woman, like, I don't know why she would do this, yo. It's like when nobody else in the family was around, it's like she'll sneak in something to say to me that just makes me freeze for a minute and think, and I'm
About
like,
the other family member? About what? Like,
for example, you know, one day her and I got into a little spat. This is years ago. And I was like, yo, mom, for that, seriously. And she goes, oh, Sally. And I'm like, why is she sounding like a Chinese woman? What is that about? And I'm just like, whatever. Months later, she's watching TV and she's like, oh, me like. And I'm like, why is she sounding like that? I get to China, they tell me, what's your name again? And I tell them, and they're like, change your name because you're a Chinese kid and people wouldn't understand. And I'm like, what are you trying to tell me? And they said, just listen to us, change your name. Of course, I didn't do that. Then everything started making sense, like how my family would give me hot water to drink as a kid. Why my mother would always give me rice and noodles as a kid, constantly, 24/7. I called her on I said, Mom, this is what happened. They told me to do X, Y, and Z. Is there some things that you need to tell me about myself and my other family members? My mother turned red and went to the corner and couldn't say anything. Then everything started making sense. Everything started making sense.
yeah,
I
this is
walked down the,
crazy.
huh?
That changes everything. That would be like if my dad came to me now and been like, you're totally like, I don't know, New Zealand or some shit that I've never even thought of. Did
Leia,
you ever think, like, were you attracted to that, like, culture or country?
yeah, yeah, because it's freedom there for me. It's freedom. I remember times like I'm walking down the street, I see a guy on top of a tree asleep. He's not poor, he's not homeless, he just wanted to take a nap. And I'm like, you know what? I like that right there. You know, that's my type of energy right there. You could just go out to the, to the land and relax. You do that here in the United States, you're going to jail.
How did he get on the tree? Was it a flatter branch or?
He just climbed down. He climbed down the branches when he was done.
Oh my God, I've never seen that.
It's freedom. It's freedom, yo. The food was cheap. Electricity was cheap. Yo, like it was to the walking down the street, and it's like literally when people would find out my name, it's like they just rush me. Can I get your autograph? Can I get your autograph? Can I take pictures with you? Can you sign it? Can you? And I'm like, whoa, to the point that it got a little bit too overwhelming. And I had to retreat and stay inside the house a lot of times.
Was it
But
because you played basketball, or did they think you were someone else, or what was the?
it had to do with my name, the fact that I did play basketball there, and yeah, and just like my behavior, how I carried myself. I had some, some drama go down every now and then, but then, if something happened, they just look at the paper, huh? Oh, that's your name? All right, you can go. And they're like, you can go. I'm like, I bet.
I guess I'm missing it. Like, what did you change your name? I mean, why would your name change be such a big deal?
Okay. Because my name is actually the name of a very popular city there. A
Okay.
very popular city. So then trying to protect me. This was the first company I worked for. They were trying to protect me because, I mean, again, he goes, you need to change your name because they wouldn't understand. He understood, my boss at the time, because he traveled the world, but the natives wouldn't understand like that because of my complexion and my height, because they're
Mhm.
exposed to a lot of things and it's not their fault. So yeah, I get there and the boss was like, yeah, change your name to Bob. And I'm like, Bob, I can't do that, yo. That's not me. Like, they're like, change it to Bob. And I'm like, oh gosh. And it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. But then later on, everything started clicking. Cylinders started working. Then I realized some of their traits, like some of the students I would be around and some of the people I would be around. And I remember some of their traits. And I remember doing this stuff and it never dwelled on me. For example, like sometimes when I was growing up, if I'm about to take a test, like I'm doing my pen like this. I go into a Chinese classroom one day, I look, the students, and these are like middle grade students. They got one finger like this, and their pen is literally spinning on their hand. And I'm like, on one finger? Then I started thinking maybe they're more advanced than me. Who knows? Who knows? Hot water. Like I'm drinking hot water now. Like my brother would always give me hot water when I was a kid. And I'm like, why are you giving me hot water? I like cold water. He was like, nah, this is better for your system. Step foot in a Chinese restaurant. Yeah, hot water. I'm like, I don't want this right now. I'm like, oh, y'all spying? Know that I drink hot water. Oh, it's Chinese culture. And I'm like, here we go. Here we go. All in all, Leia is a fun place. I would rather be there than here. Like, you got to be kidding me, Leia. I was riding in Maybachs over there, yo. I was living the life. Free rent, like free food, a chauffeur. Kidding me?
That sounds amazing.
You learn
Do
a
you do
lot of
yoga
stuff when
there?
you're
Do they
doing.
do yoga?
Whew. I'm so glad you said that. Every day when it hits around 6 o'clock in the evening time, there's multitude of people outside the shopping centers, in the parks. They're sitting there doing yoga. They're sitting there doing Tai Chi. And others to do it too. It's like an everyday thing. Whether the sun is out, whether it's raining, they're there every single day.
Love that. I've heard that. And it's like that here in Florida. It wasn't like that at home in Michigan because it's cold.
Yep. Yep.
It's
That
cold
yoga
in China
stuff.
though, doesn't it snow?
Yes. Yes, it does snow. And I love it. And I tell you another thing. I tell you another thing about when I first touched down over there. We're at a Chinese restaurant. I'm talking to that boss of mine, and he says, Wu Chengdu. I'm like, what's up? He said, what do you want to eat? I was like, let me get some rice and some chicken, please, sir. He's like, okay. So he speaks Mandarin to the waiter, and he goes, nigga, and I'm like, yo, what the hell are you saying, yo? Like, what is going on here? And he's like, nigga means that in Chinese. So I'm telling her to get me that. I'm like, okay, all right, ain't no problem. Then he asked me something else. I'm like, yeah, let me get a soda, please. Then he calls the waiter back. Then he starts saying, jigga. And I'm like, yo, now you're saying jigaboo? He's like, no, jigga means this or that in Chinese. And I'm like, I bet. It was fun for the first 2 weeks. I'm like, yo, this and this. And then the culture shock hit. And this is where I messed up at. Instead of integrating living in West Africa to living there, instead of that, I got a little bit callous. The culture shock hit. I realized that I was like in a new territory. And it's like I kind of got either hermit, I turned somewhat hermit, or I semi got aggressive. You know, like I'm getting mad at somebody because I'm speaking English to them and they only speak Chinese and they can't understand what I'm saying. Like, how ignorant is that? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that culture shock hit, but then once it's like a honeymoon stage, then the culture shock hit. Then you learn you got to deal with it, and then everything else goes smoothly from then on. That's just how it is.
How do you know how to read all that shit? Like, because it's pictures, it's not even letters. It's like
it's the energy. You got to learn to read it. You got to. Yo, I love your accent. Yo, you got to learn how to. It's the way the characters are written, and believe it or not, writing the characters is more difficult than speaking the language. So it's kind of like the format of how the characters are written. And then let's say you have a character that looks like a man or like a human body or something like that. So then you'll remember that character and you'll say to yourself, okay, it's like a human body. It means this word that pertains to this. And it's kind of like you correlate them together. So once you see it, you latch on to it. So when the next character comes up, you kind of form the same thing, the same pattern. Can I read that, the language written? Is it cuneiform or calligraphy? Not all of it. A pinch, I can, but not all of it because it's very difficult to read. But if you put a Chinese
there for like 5 years, though, that's a long ass time to like not know what the hell's going on. Like as far as people writing things or
talking, I can understand. That's more like,
oh, you could.
Of course. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Talking, I can understand. It's a feeling. Like,
Mhm.
let's say you sitting in a room, and it's like five of, and they start talking. You know when the energy kind of cuts like a knife in the room? You know that feeling, right? Knowing Chinese, like
Yeah, that's uncomfortable, but yeah.
knowing right, speaking it and listening and hearing what they're saying, you can feel certain things. It's kind of like a feeling to it. It's a feeling to it. So like, I don't know. It was one day, one day I got hit to it. It took a while. It took a year, but I got hit to it. But I already like what, three other languages at the time, so that would be my fourth. So I had to I had to pick it up with it. But the more you, if you just sit there with the villagers, like the people from there, like make friends and talk to them on a constant basis, hang around up on them. And it's like mandatory when you get there, you got to learn it. You got to learn their language. So they'll send like a teacher to come and teach you the language. But the thing about me, I don't like being around people like that. So I canceled my teaching lessons. I went outside and dealt with the people. I just jumped right in. And then I learned it like that. So
What did they speak in West Africa?
West Africa, they speak Hebrew. They speak Afro-Asiatic language.
Oh, okay. That's what
Yeah.
you asked me if I was Afro-Asiatic. That's how we met. Yeah.
Right. Because
Because, well, that's what I wanted to
he,
ask you is like, how are their cultures so similar? Like, did those Mongols from that area come down to Africa and then somehow get to the New World, so to speak, or like America when everything was all one?
did
Or
you?
like, I guess I'm just curious, like, how is that culture the same when they're so far apart?
Okay, all right. Did you say mongoloid?
No, the Mongols, like Mongolia.
Get right, the mongoloid people, right? Genghis Khan.
Like, yeah, the Genghis Khan, yes. Because that's what I believe is the root of all of like our genetic code, the people who were deemed Indians here in America. If you look at their haplogroup, it's like Asian genetics, and their eyes look, they have Asian genetic features.
You ready
You
for
know what
this?
I'm saying?
Okay. Can you pull up a picture on the internet?
Yeah. Hang on, let me get my internet open.
Okay, got you. It's funny. I'm glad that you said that. Everything always flows together with you when somebody talks to you. Is weird.
I'm genuinely interested because I've never lived outside of America. Like I'm Filipino, like I was telling you, like Austronesian, which is our specific tribe. We come from the original Aboriginals of Australia, and that's based upon both of my parents' that 23andMe thing. My dad believes that we're Spanish. I don't know if that's colonization related or if it's based in history. He just is adamant that because I got bigger eyes, I'm Spanish.
I don't see any form of Spanish in you, yo. I don't see a form. I don't see a drop of that.
Me too. I feel like I look like the pictures of those people with the flies on their face and stuff like that. Like that's where I come from. That could have easily been me, you know?
Yeah, anybody can look at you and tell that it's like, nah. I mean, I could, nah. I can't see that. I can't. All right. So this is what you do. You go on the Google search thing, right? And you type in SAN, right?
SAN.
Uh-huh. And actually three in Mandarin. So the number three is san like that, right? And then you press space and then people.
People. Okay.
And then click on that, and then look at their image, and you can tell me what group of people they look like. And they're from South Africa. Those are the Hottentots I was telling you about, the bush people.
Okay.
And if you click images,
Sorry, my shit is slow as fuck today. I'm kind of slower today myself.
yeah, I see what you're talking about.
Oh, they look like me.
There you go. They look like Chinese people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nelson Mandela's people.
Yes. Nelson Mandela. Yes.
So there you go. And they are the oldest tribe in the world. They're the oldest living people, the first people on this planet, allegedly, from what I've read.
Really?
Yes.
That's super interesting.
So that's something to look at. Out now, Genghis Khan, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he spread. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, those people, they're considered the Bushmen. They're the ones that talk with the cliques, but clearly you can see they have Afro-Asiatic features in them.
Yes. But then the question's like, how did your parents meet then? If the cultures are so similar, they must have somehow like connected in some way, or was it by chance?
Leia, I gotta be, this is where it gets difficult for me too. I'll send you a picture of my mother and father later. My father is darker than me.
Mm-hmm.
He has a Hebrew, and he was born in West Africa, and so was my mother. He has a Hebrew name. He has a Japanese name as well. All right.
Oh, okay.
Never traveled outside of Japan. My mother is yellow with blue eyes, right?
Oh.
Together, they have 7 kids. 3 have Chinese names, 4 have Japanese names, but they're African and Hebrew names.
Whoa.
That's where it
That's
gets
fascinating. That's really fascinating.
So if people were to see my name, they're confused. It's like, are you African? Are you Chinese? Or are you a Hebrew? And it's like, and I'm like, you pick, you tell me, it depends.
Yeah. God, that would give me like severe anxiety. It just what like a lot of people here change their name, like they were named one thing when they were born, and then they had like a spiritual awakening, so they're like Featherlight Star or something like that, and that's what we call them. And I fuck with that. It's like, okay, you are a totally different person and stuff. That's a way to differentiate it, but for you it seemed like it wasn't really a choice. It was kind of like somebody is assigning this identity to you, and it's like you kind of have to accept it just to be able to survive. It's like, so I get why someone would ask what your zodiac sign is, and you're like, I'm not gonna say that information. It makes sense, because that's like root chakra awareness. The name is everything, and it tells you so much about everything. And that's why I think like our history, the shit that we learn about, like I don't believe that the way that they show us these natives with the feathers and shit on the side of the buildings in St. Pete and stuff, it's like, first of all, a woman's wasn't even allowed to wear that, like according to what I've read anyway, and what people have told me and passed down, was like that women didn't wear the headdresses. So why is there this depiction of like actually a European looking woman wearing a headdress? Like that just seems almost like mockery to me. Like I'm not even sure how to interpret it, because I don't know that it's a negative thing. I'm not like trying to put some program response that that I've read about and stuff like that, because like what's to go back to what you were saying about propaganda, it's like it's become so native, or it's become so natural, that like you think it's your friend who's like making this shit up and writing words and like putting it on there, and you're like, oh wow, holy shit, I had no idea about this oppression or this shit going on. And then you sort of like, if you see it so many times, it's like it starts to become a belief without you even trying for it to be a belief. At least in my experience, because I'm like super open and I like to absorb a lot of information, but I've had to like basically step back from all of that shit because of identity purposes, because of like, well, I am, you know, I'm from Detroit where it's a little bit more racially segregated. And I could go into this for hours with you, but like, I don't actually believe in race or subscribe to it. I like know that Toni Morrison talks about that it's just a social construct and that it's mainly about gene codes. And that's what we're seeing expressed right now in our collective like awakening. I don't know what you want to call it, but that's what it is, a collective awakening where everybody's starting to wake up to this, and the earth is also shifting and the plate shift. And like Africa is such the mother piece of this whole thing. Like that's where everything comes from. So to even just neglect it, and that's why I took area studies in Africa in college, because I felt like it was neglected. But my teacher was Tanzanian, but Asian, but grew up with like Black Americans. So like it's like if you are not from here, you would be very confused about where this person came from or what they're teaching and the perspective that they're teaching. And I feel like we have to just erase our preconceived notion and just go into it like fresh, of like, because the earth is going to show us. And I think we're like sitting on layers of information of cities. Will you talk about where you live right now, or is that also a secret?
I'll talk about, but I'm glad you mentioned the thing about race, because it's just a construct. You know, growing up, I remember a teacher told me before, out of nowhere, and I was a little kid, and I still remember this because I had got in trouble, and she pulled me to the corner. She was like, "Why are you always causing problems in class?" I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a kid, right?" And then she goes, "This is like the what, the sixth grade? What is it with you Asian people? Is it you people's Down syndrome that's making y'all act like that?" And I'm like, yo, at the time I couldn't figure out I could get somebody in trouble for that because I didn't know what you were talking about. But they say that if you have Asian genes in you, the reason why your eyes are slanted, you have Down syndrome. That's what they say.
Like an extra chromosome, or it's like genetic, or what does that
Genetic.
mean?
Yeah, they're saying you have Down syndrome. So what are they implying?
They're implying that the gene code probably is different, because I will say, like, I used to be a headhunter, and one of the areas that I was recruiting in was analytics, and it has a statistical background. So like almost every person that came through my desk was from China. And they would have long ass names too, but then I get on the phone and they'd be like, just call me John or whatever. And I was like, this feels like an insult, because like these people have quadruple master's degrees and PhDs in bioanalytics, like heavy statistical shit that I knew nothing about. Like I was an art and marketing major. Like I didn't know shit about any of that, but I knew people, and I like had this before when I was younger, like this savior thing of like, because I'm the daughter of an immigrant, like I really wanted to help these people and have them get good ass jobs. I mean, they get paid really well in America to analyze statistical data, and they'll do like, I would interview Americans and they would be like, yeah, you know, I need work-life balance. That means like leaving the job at 5. But this company was like, only hire Chinese people, because, and we will pay for their sponsorship. They will pay for these people to live here and pay them uh because they worked like just longer hours, just out of their own free will, like, and they really would, like, these people crushed it in the interview. They knew everything to say. They had the credentials, super strong. I don't know, I don't like that term work ethic. I feel like it's very capitalistic and like making people resources, you know what I'm saying? But that's what this corporation was. I like was selling out on my own soul being there, and it took me being brought to my knees to like even be able to see that clearly. So it's exciting to meet somebody who's like, because, you know, I didn't really kick it with any of them. It was just like I would recruit them in and they had a sweet job. And then we never, like, if we saw each other in the cafeteria or whatever, but I was always on my phone, like always typing. Well, back in the day, we didn't really have cell phone. It was like Blackberries. Cause I'm old as shit. Like we are OG ancients.
Hey, they bringing back those Blackberries though.
Yeah, I love those.
Me too.
I'll probably get one. It was
Yo,
so I had the click. It's fucking awesome. I had the torch. I was like, because I worked for corporate, I was like ahead of my time and I had to deal with the Chinese and that thing automatically translated. So if they wrote me an email in that, I could have it in English, which was very, I don't know, at that 2007, it was like
it's
so long ago.
and it's funny. Said something in a wrong manner when I was living in my father's house in West Africa. There, I didn't go to school. We lived. That was the village, though, kind of like how you would have the countryside here in the States. When I lived in the city with my mom's side of the family, my uncle, I had to go to private school, and
What was that?
exactly is Chinese students. The same exact thing. You all have to wear uniforms. You have to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You're talking about in an apartment complex in the city, right? You have to put on your uniform, wake up at 6 o'clock. Here in the States, the bus will come sometimes, it will come every day and pick you up. You know, over there in West Africa, sometimes the bus didn't show up and you had to walk like 4 miles to school. You talk about like primary school stuff, right? You have to walk.
What if it was snowing?
Well, it is just, well, that part of Africa, it just gets cold, like it gets freezing cold like twice out of the year, just twice.
Okay.
So you will walk, and then it's like school starts at like 7:30, and again, primary school 30 and gets out at, I don't know, 6 o'clock in the evening. You see what I'm saying? So it was the same thing in China, and all they were doing was to instill in you, I don't like to say it, but work ethic. So you can be a machine. They didn't care about your emotions. They didn't care about your feelings. They didn't care if you were sick, if you was tired. You still had to go do it.
Oh my God. That's how my parents were. I feel like if my daughter just has a little sniffle, I'm like, yeah, just sleep in, you know? But my parents were like, no, you're going whether you feel good or not. Like nobody stayed home from anything ever.
Later, that's all it was. And it's kind of like this. All the parents cared about was this. I mean, they love you, but it's like, did you eat? Did you sleep? Are you making good grades? Are you doing your housework? Are you doing homework? Okay, fine then. That's all it was. It wasn't they, we weren't coddled like that growing up over there. It wasn't coddled. So
then when did you come here? Was you a teenager?
When I came back to the States, I was 13. First, it was 1994. First, it was Nigeria and then England for a little bit. South Harrow was the place that I stayed in. That
oh my
place
God,
was
that
weird.
sounds amazing.
It was. That's a weird place. That is a weird place. Yeah,
there's a lot of
very weird.
vortexes there.
Huh?
There's a lot of vortexes in England, like sacred sites.
I never knew that. See, and that's what it felt like. It felt like a gray area when I was there. I'm glad you. Wow. Can you elaborate on that? I never heard about that before.
Yeah, like I'm really into the earth grids, energy ley lines, which is essentially like energetic lines that run through earth. This is what I wanted to really talk about on pre-show, but the one guy knows a lot about it. That other gentleman that was on there, that I think he's a preacher. I'm not sure. Well, I forget his name. The one talking about the the dogs, or when like some people smelled like dogs.
Man, did you ever research that? You know I was right with that, right?
I actually did. Well, because I was like, I mean, he makes valid points. It was just he was really into that, like talking about that when he had such a vast amount of other knowledge too. But anyway, he talked about these earth ley lines, and it's basically at points like just like how you have on your body, there's like vortexes where the ley lines will intersect. And that's just like how we have masculine and feminine energies, it's kind of the same type of energy of like it radiates up from the earth and then also down from the sky or the firmament, depending on what you believe the earth to be. But with those elements, you can feel energies. And sometimes, like here in Florida, it's very humid. And then you have all of the underground caves, the humidity, like the lightning, and all of that combines. And so sometimes spirits from the other dimensional realms will stick if they have unfinished emotional business. And the main areas that these like vortexes exist is where they built like Stonehenge, shit like the pyramids, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, and all that shit in Africa. Like you can't find anything on Africa is the thing. They'll say main things like, you know, I don't know, whatever the fuck, like South Africa is always the focus for some reason. Nowhere else will they talk about Chad or the Sudan or Ghana, you know, all these other places that I learned about in school. It's not tangible for me because I need to like know the feeling of it, the energies. And West Africa has a lot of vortexes, and then China does. But that's why I asked which part of China, because there's one specific one that's like the third chakra of the earth or whatever, according to Diane Cooper, the book 2012 and Beyond. She sort of documents this, and she's from England. All of the, how do I say this? Like, I don't mean this about the people. I'm talking about the colonizers, the mentality, the apex predators that colonized all these areas. They took the information. So they have all of this information about our sacred sites on different lands and then are selling it back to us, which is what I'm reading right now and kind of like really into. But then there's code holders like you that are from all those places, and people who are from all those places. And the fact that you didn't know is like part of it is that you have the knowledge for it. And it's just, I have to unlock it with different keys, if that makes sense. So that would be like the type of trees that you had around you. Like you're talking about water sources, like clearly you were around a freshwater source, which is where the energy of the earth, like that's a ley line essentially. It's going to have a lot of minerals like radium, uranium, and that's where they build all the deep underground military bases here in Florida, well, everywhere in America. I'm sure they have them out there. I know they do. Well, I don't want to say too much because I come from a military family. Shout out to the military. And they're like Navy SEAL. And so they tell me because they only tell me what they can say. So I guess the public can know since they told me. But basically, you know, Libya is a huge place where they have the deep underground military bases, and that's facts because that's where he was. I don't know specifically West Africa, like what cities and shit, but I bet you do. You probably lived on one.
You know, I gotta be honest with you, Leia. In a good way, you know too much. You
Praise
know
the Most
too
High.
much,
Praise to
yo.
the Most High for that one because I don't feel like I do. Like I was on pre-show, like, oh my God, I don't know really. He knows so much. Those people know a lot. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck to say because like they know so much about Sumerian shit.
Leia, it's like this. Um, Funny you mentioned England because they said it felt like a great area. I used to remember as a kid, I would watch TV shows from England on PBS. And it's like every time I would look at the sky and the aura of that place, it just seemed like a little bit cloudy type and like kind of jaded. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I get
Yeah.
there. Yeah, I get there, and it's like all I remember is that it was cold. The sun seldom came out, and it would get dark around 3 p.m. And the sky would just turn gray like that. It felt like the feeling I felt is like I felt like I was there, but time didn't exist, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know how to, but that's just what it felt like when I was there.
I'm gonna send you a map of these people on this forum that put together all the sacred sites into this sacred geometry. Like they figured all this shit out. I'm always like impressed with people who figure stuff out like that, you know, like these conspiracy people with all the numbers and everything. Like I just don't think like that. I think I said to I forget who I was talking to about this, but I said, like, if you are not spiritual, like if you are not seeing things from the unseen perspective, it's like we probably can't really jive. You know what I mean? Like we can't have a conversation because I might be saying one thing, but you think that I'm saying something completely different. And that's why I could never go to a place where they didn't have the English alphabet, because I would have a hard time with not being able to read things. Like, I think that's really impressive that you live there. My sister lived in Thailand, and I asked her, like, how the fuck are you getting food or like getting around? Like, gives me deep anxiety to think about. And it's that Lemurian flood fear of like, that I'm going to be displaced and disoriented from what I know. I need to travel more. I need to go there. Take a trip to China.
Leia, you called it out. You called it out. It's almost funny. I'm pretty sure stuff occurs here, in the United States, but it's kind of weird. I say things and it triggers for me to think about how you mentioned those different areas. Like, you ever notice it's countries like China, Africa that you see, like Philippines, wherever, those countries that are further away, or continents, whichever one. Those are where you see a lot more activity with spiritual things. Not saying it doesn't happen here, but over there in those countries, it seems like it's a little bit more extra or something like that.
Yeah. I
Like,
really feel like going back to
ahead.
Pangea when everything was all one, and that, like, you know, the Appalachian Mountains are actually mimic the west coast of Africa. I feel like it was all one landmass, and then they had the concentration of energy. Because if you really look at the Lemuria and the Atlantis readings from Edgar Cayce, or like any literature that's out there in the quote unquote new age, is like it talks about that these crystals in the Merkaba, which is in the sphere of Earth. Now, some people don't believe it's a sphere and they think it's all bullshit, but just for our purposes, like entertaining that idea that there's like a Merkaba, and that parts of it fractionated off, which is why it's separated. I think like well, I don't know if you're in America now, but if you're in America today, Turtle Island is like sort of where they were on, like when it all started separating, there was gene codes that were on that they almost like eggs hatched out of inner earth, you know what I'm saying? And then there's all these things about the Anunnaki. Like I had to come to grips with that. I'm Anunnaki, you know. Like pretty much I'm a reptilian I have reptilian genetics, and we all do, but mainly melanated. And that's what makes it, that's
I
why
said it,
we
Leia. I said it that day on the show. I said monkey and reptilian DNA. I said that. And let me tell you something else. You see, you understand stuff, right? A lot
do.
of
I
these, you do. A lot of these sisters and brothers running around here saying, okay, if you listen to music can mess with your frequency, right? Okay. So if you're just listening to it, imagine speaking something that can mess with your reality or your frequency as well. You got these brothers out here and these sisters talking about the ancestors, the ancestors, the ancestors. I'm not knocking everybody, because there's some people that are deeply rooted in things of that nature. But these new these following people, they got to be talking about the ancestors. Okay, how come when I was in West Africa, I wasn't the only person that saw it? Other people saw it too. It was like a daily thing, a monthly thing. These brothers and sisters be saying, oh, the mermaid god, oh this, oh shun, or something like that. They praying to that stuff. You would see that stuff regularly out there. You'll see it out there. You'll see it in China. Y'all calling these brothers, these quote unquote ancestors, you really see them. Are you going to question yourself? You're going to question reality? You're going to rethink things over? All of that stuff is true. They show us that stuff on TV for a reason, because they have that information already.
Mm-hmm.
They have it, yo. You can look, I guarantee you, if you put me in China, West Africa, I could see a mermaid from a mile away and point out and be like, that's an aqua brother, that's an aqua sister. Have a distinct look to it. They have a distinct look. You see more things of that nature when you go to those.
I guess I'm just curious, like, how do you have melanin and live in the water? Like, that would be, because like you're not seeing the sun, you know what I mean?
Something to think about. But you know, the further down you go in the ocean, in the water, right, it gets warmer though.
No, I don't know. I've never been in the deep ocean.
Because it kind of boils because you're getting closer and closer. I guess there's some heat source, maybe the core of the earth. I don't know. But like at the heat travels up, but then at the same time, I don't get it, because the ocean, the sea, I'm pretty sure they're cold, but they have some boiling points at the bottom.
Interesting. I want to see some mer people. That sounds amazing.
You can tell them by a mile away. You can tell them. You got to look at the texture of their hair, how they keep their hair, where they spend most of their time at. Where they spend most of their time at. If they're constantly taking showers, 24, like when they take a shower and that shower lasts for like an hour, 30 minutes, what you think you're dealing with?
Oh my God. Yes. Oh my God. I don't think I'm a mer person. I feel like I'm a tree nymph. I really love trees. Like, I'm one of those spirits that would live in a tree and like haunt people. You know,
you got Anunnaki genetics in you, because if you heard what OG said on that show, Gabar, he said that they were African and Asian. Let me tell you this. You know how I know? If you look at the picture of the pharaohs that they used to have, King Tut, if you pull up his picture, makeup under his eyes. No, he has slanted eyes too, and his statue is gold. Looks yellow to me. So he clearly couldn't be 100% African. He had to be mixed with something.
Yeah.
Like look at some of the hats the Chinese people used to wear, like, and some of the little masquerade things that they have, like how they would have a celebration and you got people holding, and they're walking holding the dragon, and it's a big puppet, like a big puppet dragon. They do the same thing in West Africa too. They do the same exact thing.
Is it the same time? Like, do they celebrate that New Year too in West Africa?
Okay. That I can't say. I know they have some type of celebration for that. From what I remember, our Christmas holiday lasted for 7 days. What is that, Hanukkah or something like that?
7 days. Yeah.
Or something. One of those Jewish things but that's how our Christmas was. But New Year's, I know they do, and you don't, I don't do stuff like this. I don't go around doing this, but I know New Year's they have to do some type of animal sacrifice. And I think they do the same thing in China too, and they use incense and all that.
Yeah, because it's the blood. I don't know how deep we want to get into this. You're into hip hop, so you know, like, I kind of wanted to get into that on that show, but I don't know. He's pretty high vibrational and doesn't probably talk about that, but
yo,
that's what that industry became, the rap industry, you know?
Leia. See, and I could be wrong, but I hope I'm not. It's not my intentions uh to say the wrong thing. You, yo, you possess a lot of power, and you'll know when it's time to talk. But at the same time, yo, you gotta be assertive in that piece. Yo, look at the stuff you're talking about now. It's stuff like this that keeps the show going. It's a lot of people that I see that come in there, and it's kind of like, okay, I already know what you're here for. You're not here trying to heal people or give people knowledge. You're here to bolster your status so you can be like, hey, look at me, I did this. And no, no. You're a female. You're already intimidated without even knowing it. With this information that you have, like, do you know what that would do for a lot of people? You got to look at it like that, yo.
Thank you for reminding me. Thank you. I know. I guess I just don't, because I'm very intellectual, and I try to surround myself with people that I feel like are smarter than me, like at something. I don't know too much about beats, but I use them in all of my classes, and all of the beats that I've heard from you, I would use in a class, and that's so rare to find. Like, I love Drake. I can't say that I don't listen to that. I don't want to, but I feel like his producer is really good. And then he does the rap and singing thing, and it just kind of is very catchy. And it's hard to not put that type of music in my classes, but I don't like the lacing in of some stuff. And it's just brings you to a lower frequency. But it's like one of my guiltiest pleasures is Future. I don't know if you know Future. You probably don't listen to that shit, but he's like one of the mumble rappers that came later. And it's like real music like doesn't need to do that. Like it actually was laced with messages that were awakening the masses. That's probably why we're seeing what we're seeing now. And they took something that was very good, illuminating people. Like Illuminati is rooted in the word illuminate, where that's not a negative thing. I mean, how could light be dark at all? But they flipped the upside down triangle, the feminine energy, right side up, which isn't wrong. It's just in its use of it could yield back things that are not of the highest quality or worth, and it can manipulate people.
I feel like a lot of men, they're not comfortable in their sexuality because, and it's the truth. It's the truth, yo. When a female put our pride aside, let me get my jacket. It's a little bit nippy in here. When a female pulls your card and she know more than you, be a man and admit it. Because at the end of the day, you can still learn from it. That's making yourself better. That's making yourself smarter. A lot of brothers got too much pride going on that when you do have a female that's telling all truth and telling it how it is, they don't want to accept it because it's kind of like role. That's how they look at it. Get back in your role as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, brothers got to stop that. That means they're not comfortable in their sexuality. I'm supposed to lead. Yeah, I'm supposed to lead, not a woman. Nah, it's about sharing ideas. And if you feel upset that a woman knows more than you, you got internal problems inside, yo. See it?
That's so real. I see it from like a corporate perspective too, where I think about these gigantic corporations that I was working for, and everybody at the top, there was women. So that's why I was there. I'm like, oh, well, I'll have a female boss. I don't want to say too much because they're probably watching. You never know. But anyways, like I was like, how did she get there? But she had the best ideas and the best insight on the subject matter. And they would listen, and she had a seat at the table, but she never got her full credit, in my opinion. Like during the accolade ceremony, like it was always another man or something that got it. But at the same time, I'm also a traditionalist that sees it from a submissive, choosing to be submissive standpoint in the role of a wife, where some men do need to be paid more because they are holding more weight and they're taking care of, like in your situation, 7 kids, there was 7 other dependents. And so sometimes the man does need to make more because he's holding that much more weight. And because I know a lot of people talk about the pay gap. And so I do have feminist ideals in the respect that, like, it's so amazing to be at the table and being listened to by men. But I also believe that we are here to be a good support. Like, it's not that I don't want to be a boss or something like that, but I feel like that's over glorified, because I'm not built to be someone that's going to insert myself into the conversation. I don't have a body appendage that does that. We are meant to, like, receive and listen and, like, offer when it's needed, I guess. Like, that's kind of how I see things, and that how I honor divine feminine energy. But I do love strong people too. Like, I only work with really strong women. That's why I be trying to matchmake for you. I want to start that as a business. Like, I feel like I would be really good at that.
Yo, that yo, and then you know what? You know what? You telling me you was in a military background? That sister of mine that I showed you her picture, she was in the military too, yo. She was getting some military award. I don't know what it is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't in the military, but my family members are.
I see. Yeah.
I could never.
I
could never do that.
That matchmaking, yo.
What's wrong with a matchmaker? You are a conscious. It's very different. Not that I know. I've been out of the. I've never actually ever been in the game. I will say that. Like, maybe people don't know that about me. I feel like it's kind of a given. But somebody said, they said, you went on that show and you just seemed really naive. And it's not that I'm naive. It's just that I haven't really, like, ever interfaced with other men unless it was, like, in a work setting. Like, I don't just go. Oh, one of my followers messaged me that after she had watched, I don't want to say followers, like witnesses, people who witness my content. She said that, and because, like, kind of, she knows me from a long time ago. I grew up in the same area for 40 years. I never left that area until like a year ago. So anyways, I was just, I forgot what I was talking about. I got too high, but
she said you seem naive on the show because you were being receptive and gathering data. You was trying to test the waters first to see where you was actually at, and you seem naive.
Yeah, and because, like, usually I'm rambling on about emotional healing and yoga and stuff on my stuff. It's like she's seeing a totally different side of me here, because people do have. I think I like to take in everything. I'm not really somebody that's just going to insert myself and, like, but just like you said, like, I think everything is led with energy. Maybe I do that without knowing it, but it's like, I feel like I'm pretty aware. And if it feels necessary, I'll say something. But otherwise, I think it's really smart to observe first, like, just so you know. You might think you know everything, and then that guy got on and he knew, like, literally everything. He was like,
but I kind of find that disrespectful. She is going to call you naive. Okay, sure. And that's that. And it goes back to people speaking things. Like, when people speak stuff like that, already process it in my mind, and it's kind of like, you know what, return to sender, it doesn't apply to me, because you're putting negative energy on me. It's like you're trying to take me down a peg or two. I don't associate with people that talk negative. I don't do that.
I love that. First of all, I didn't interpret it that way, but it was definitely a dig now that I think back to it. And this always happens to me because I'm a very neutral person. So I don't, like, have any. If somebody said, you're an idiot to me, I would actually be like, let's hear why you feel that way. Whereas other people would be like, nope, I'm not even going to let it in. And this is why I get into situations I get into and have to, like, reassess my energy budget, because sometimes I just like how we eat too much. Sometimes I just take it and take it, and then it's just like, wait, this is not aligned with me. I don't even want this. As a Libra, I'm very indecisive. I really take the traits of like a true Libra. Like when I read that shit, I'm like, whoa, that resonates so much because I'm always like weighing things. It's the only zodiac that's like mechanical. All the other ones are like these really amazing animals or like something that you could invoke, but you can't really invoke scales. And that's what makes us so vanilla. And like, that's where she's coming from, is saying like, you're a little naive in that respect. I kind of took it as like, okay, I need to look at myself. And I internalize everything. And part of that is, assimilation into a culture that isn't how my family was, like a dominant culture. And then looking to find identity through that. And then realizing all of this shit that they learned is like fake. Like they don't really know who they are. Like I actually have the keys. And what one would consider, one gal told me that I had like family privilege because I come from a big family as well. But they're not into all the stuff that I'm into. Like they don't see what you see. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just rambling on about my stuff, but they don't
but
see.
Libra, I've always felt like those scales.
Yeah.
I've always felt like, and I learned this when I would watch the kung fu movies, but it clicked in when I was in Asia. You would have some people that lived in China, they live in the city, but they still had the countryside mentality to the point they'll have those long sticks, balance them on their shoulder with a
Yes.
bucket of water on that side, a bucket of water on that side, and they're kind of like tilting it. It's kind of like a scale.
Oh my God, you just connected something for me, which is that the term yoga is rooted in the term yuj, and the Old English term is that ox. And if you actually look at the Libra, it has like a thing and then two. I never realized. So that actually means yoga. Like, how dope is that?
And it's funny you said that because that's what I saw. That's what processed in my head.
Yeah.
Before you said it, I saw an ox because sometimes they will put that scale on the ox too when he's carrying grain.
Mm.
So yeah, just because your son's not an animal, I think that is one of the most powerful signs right there.
Like the mechanical.
Oh,
I love my Scorpio moon. Like I really look at all aspects of my chart. And this gal that was on this show like a couple of weeks ago, Phoenix, she talks very much about like invoking meaning from all of like your Mars being in Virgo and all this shit. To me, it was word salad. I'm like, these people just want to sound like they know stuff. I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me. It wasn't landing. And then when I started to kind of apply it to my own self, like really reading what they're saying and taking it in, it's like, holy shit, this is actually really accurate, kind of scary. And I think maybe I turned off because I was like, they might know too much about me. And I don't want them to know because of my identity. I feel like you're right. People who aren't comfortable in themselves will try to push things away. And that's like where we're at collectively, is like pushing away emotions or like not acknowledging this shit that's been bubbling for a long time. Like anybody who's from the other parts of the world are like, hello, America, you guys are the bad guy. I don't think anybody looks at it and is like, we're the bad guys. Everyone thinks they're doing good. They're doing the best they can with their level of awareness. It's so hard because it's like everybody's aware now, so they're
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
how
But the people that are more so aware, would it, our generation is more so aware. These people that's coming up now, they had to use computers to learn what they had. We actually had to go outside and experience things.
yeah.
We were like in the trenches. They're not.
You're right. Analog, like just we didn't have cell phones to know what time it was. Like literally, I never knew what time it was. It feels like the days were so long. Like I don't even know
And
what we
it's
were.
and it's going by quicker and quicker, right? It's kind of
But
weird.
is it okay? So that's one thing I wanted to talk about on that show as well. Maybe we'll just do it here. Is like is it, are we moving faster through time where it's more dense and we're light? Or is it that we have these screens? Like I could have never met you unless I had the internet. Like I could have never met Killah Priest and Solomon in even watch Santos Bonacci, who they have on like really big thinkers, where like I would have never had any access to any of that. And I think about, is it because we are looking at this liquid crystal screen and it seems very real because it's like people, but then are they even people? Like some people on here are bots. I'm like reading their stuff like, girl, have you ever had an original thought? Like, no, I don't know. And then I'm like, I need to stop judging. I'm a spiritual person. So then I log off and I always feel better being in nature. There's not one time where I was like, oh, I wish I was on my phone. I love being in nature and I forget, and I think that's what it's all about.
And it's funny you say that. It's funny you mentioned that because, again, when they would show us the bad part of Africa on TV or those crazy parts of the world, either they're wearing flip-flops or they're walking around. They're in tune with that stuff. They're in tune with that stuff, yo. Back then, if you walked around you walked around barefoot back then, even now, some people will look at you funny. How do you know I'm not trying to reconnect? How do you know I'm not trying to do that? This thing with the time going by quicker and quicker, I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on. Say this, when that last eclipse happened, I the one that was on a Saturday morning or something like that, at least for me. Yes, my technology was acting weird.
That's crazy.
I wanted to get on the show and ask Killah Priest, like, yo, AD, Killah Priest, did anything happen with y'all's electronics and stuff like that? I just felt like, nah, certain things.
Producer AD, he's very in tune with the astrological cycles. It seemed like he knew what I was talking about.
He does.
Yeah.
They all feel comfortable. That's why I am pro Leia. Like, I feel like you need to be on that show at least once a week.
Oh my God, I can't stay up past 9. It's like, so I'm like a senior citizen.
They need female energy.
But I told you I got upset. I'm still dealing with my feelings. I know they didn't mean it. He's just a young man. But but that whole subject of like doing it for validation, I went inward on that. I really did. I sat with that for a long time. It led me down a rabbit hole I needed to go down because that's a part of my psyche that needs to be integrated. I was offended. Why are you offended? When they're not talking about you, is basically what you said. And B, they're not referring to all women, but it's like the way that Kapwa works, which is the indigenous Tao term for shared consciousness. Like you have your fractured consciousness, and then you have this one consciousness where, one blood, one flesh, all this idea of unity. I know a lot of us are stretching for that right now. Like pretty much you have to pick a side or you don't give a shit about people. I don't really buy into any of their propaganda. I'm going to let it play out, but hopefully in like a week or two, more of us is going to see Kapwa, the shared consciousness of that. When you're talking about a certain type of woman, you're talking about all women, because until those that are perceived to be at the bottom or feel like they're at the bottom, like, let me just remind you that I still feel like those type of women sometimes, because that's where I came from. I still feel that way. And until you actually get in touch with yourself, higher self, using all these lower vibrational forces to alchemize all the work that I've done over the past 20 years, until you achieve that level of seeing yourself, you're still going to operate from that subconscious program and be offended by things like that because it felt like a personal attack. But I know it was, obviously.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll give you this is my experience with what I see in regards to women if I'm using Instagram. And I'm just going off of a sample size of what I see. And I'm not blaming the women. Maybe it's people that I'm associated with on Instagram that subscribes to these type of things. And then
But
it gets
wait,
set.
actually, I'm going to interrupt you for a moment. I don't mean to, because you're going to go on a good roll. But everything on the liquid crystal screen is from the earth. It's a crystal, and it's a reflection of something in our consciousness. It's a mirror and an echo chamber. So it's something within you. And
So
not,
something you don't like about somebody, you don't like it because it's pertaining to you.
or it's a shadow of yours, something that
Gotcha.
needs attention and love. It doesn't mean that you are a Krisha with the acrylics or some shit shaking her ass. You might abhor it, but you also there's a part of your consciousness that is attracting that because it's in your consciousness. Because this is a neutral. I'm not talking about socioeconomic or even racial or even genetic code. I'm talking about purely your vibration. It can't lie. The universe only hears vibration, and it there's no lies in it. So if there's something lower, which is okay, I have a lot of primordial low energy that I'm very proud of. I used to be those people that would, I never got to be in front of a Mercedes, but I probably would have done that if I was around it. But
no, but it's Leia, it's the point to where every scroll, it has to be a woman of any color. Here she go with the leggings and the tight, and it's like, okay, can I even? I mean, yo, like, can I even imagine? It's like everything is, and I have to press the profile, and I'm giving that person a view, and I have to press block, 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 and it's like, why even go on it? Why even go on it? It makes people too comfortable. And all it's doing is just getting people prepared for the computer age. It's not going to be any more families anymore. It's just going to be some with a robot maid that looks like a female, a robot concubine.
Yo, but I want to go back to what turns you off about that? A lot of men like that stuff. Actually, like that's what sells music, don't you think? Like, what's the gal's name? The gal, good form. You got good form. I can't think of, she's very masculine. Anyways, she has like an hourglass shaped body, and it's like everybody want to have the hourglass shaped body. They set the standard, you know what I'm saying?
Bingo.
Like,
there you go. There you go. Bingo. They are setting the standards. So now you'll see a woman that could be slim, that's not proportionate like what we see on music videos and whatnot, and you're not going to think twice about getting with her. Her mind first, she could be the most intelligent spiritual person on the planet that's meant for you, but you're not going to want her because she's not like what you see, to what you're programmed to see on television. Stay away. Chinese people believe that stuff. You know, the women with the huge behinds and the curves and all the apple bottoms, whatever Chinese people now, and the Chinese men will look and be like, oh, crazy. But the women from there, and you do have women from there that shape like that, but they believe that stuff is not good. It's not good. I don't know why. They just say that's trouble. I mean,
well, it's because genetically, I'm not Chinese, but I have Asian genetics, and like we're not the curviest people. You know what I'm saying? Like we're just very, very skinny. I think it might be adaptation genetics. I don't know. I don't know. I just think that's really, I actually like understand that for some reason, like why they would think.
When you see that on a constant basis, okay, for example, if I'm walking down the street, I don't know, I'll see a girl like that. Okay. Wow. Nothing I haven't seen before. So it kind of makes you immune to it, to the point it's like, okay, that is the typical robot that I see every day. Typical type of hair, typical type of pants. It's almost as if it's a science experiment. It's a science experiment. Somebody can look at me right now and see the way I put my clothes on. They could tell what era I grew up in.
Mm.
They could tell what time frame I'm from. They could tell by the way I talk, the slang I use, the words I use. They know what generation I come from, if they're really in tune. I can look out right now and see a female walking and she's wearing like those girls I see on Instagram. And I always question this: who's taking those photos and recording them? That's neither here nor there. But if I see them, it's like I know where you come from. I know what this is like, although I could be wrong, but I can just sum you up right there and then. And it's stereotyping, but it's like, you're not the type of person I want to deal with or be around. And that could be the most intelligent woman on this planet, but because of the presentation and what I hear, if I hear him talk, it's like, well, I know you're a liability. You're not an asset. Oh. And then they say, this is what gets me. They say, public figure. Because you got curves. Oh, let me guess. You're showing your figure to the public. Boom. Public figure.
That's clever. I never thought of it that way.
Public figure. Public figure. Like, come on. What did you do? How are you healing people? If you want to get into that chakra stuff, how are you healing the chakra that's here? Because if anything, if I see that, I'm thinking about that red one, the lower one. Mm-hmm. To me, whether I process it up here or stay down there, I'm not public figure. Somebody like you should be a public figure. You're actually healing people. You actually have content. And the minute I say that, then you're gonna have some woman with hips and all that. I'm gonna start a yoga channel. Are you really doing for people to look at your body? Which one is it?
I feel what you mean. It needs to be driven by intent, but I do want to say that, like, for centuries, I think I talk about this with you. I can't remember who I said this to, but I was like, we have not been seen or heard or validated. And that's what was triggered in me when I was hearing them talk about that women do it just for validation. One thing that I had cancer and I lost all my hair, and I kind of was in my masculine energy. So my body looked like a 13-year-old boy. I didn't have any curves and I was just working all the time. So I was sort of hunched over and looked really old. And then I started practicing yoga, getting into the depths of it. And I own those yoga centers, which is where I developed myself pretty much. I mean, I was the business owner, but for the most part, it was self-development. And I got to do all those workshops for free. It formed my body into having the hourglass type shape. And it really does. It awakens your Shakti energy, your divine feminine energy, that you're seeing that in yourself, what you saw in Marilyn Monroe, or I want to say Erica Badu, but it's not Eric. She's definitely not Erica Badu. I can't remember the gal's name. Cardi B. Is she even a rapper? I don't even know if she's a rapper, but someone like that, or Kim Kardashian, but she's not in music. But anyway, she still sets a standard. It's like I was moving toward that ideal. And even in yoga, they always say, oh, this is like so great for your glutes. It's so great for your core. And then we do it because we want to emulate these divine feminine women that are, I think it's a survival-based program of like, because they get that attention from men, they must have resources. And if they have resources, they're probably going to survive. So I have to do that if I want to have what she has, instead of, there's no way that I could ever look like Kim Kardashian. I mean, maybe my hair, maybe, and if I did my makeup a certain way, but for the most part, I'm just not built to have like a big behind. Like, it would look very strange on a small frame.
Surgery. They did surgery, but go ahead, I'm listening.
Well, yeah, but then you ask yourself, like, why? Because it really is just a collection of estrogen in that area of the body. And I know that it drives biologically something in a man's brain that it would be more visually appealing or something like this, and it indicates fertility. So they're looking for perpetuation of the species at the same time. And that on a biological level, a male wouldn't be at fault for being like attracted to someone. Like just because it's something that you like on Instagram, it doesn't make you wrong for it, but it does inherently if the intent isn't, you know, you see that the intent isn't there and it's not aligned with you. And that's kind of where, so anyways, going back to my story, I became this like more awakened to my divine feminine energy. And I look back at that and I say like, that is not like, I was not healthy then in the mind, in the body, or in spirit. I was a broken person. So obviously I wouldn't post that on Instagram because it's not going to attract any. We get on there to attract and feel good. And then I had a gal that worked at the studio with me and she became a photographer and she was like, you got to take pictures. Like, you're so beautiful. You would just be an Instagram star, basically. She's like, you'll get so much business. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Like, if it's going to bring in business, I'm all about it. And it did, like, all of a sudden the account blew up. People were coming in wanting to tag us. And all of this validation feedback loop of social credibility of what you're talking about in China, the dopamine rush, actually getting approval because they're leaving a comments in there. It's like, I really fucking am somebody now. And it did kind of bring me up to where I was supposed to be, which is aligned with goddess energy and attracting people to help heal with the intent to help heal. I was never putting anything out just for my ego. But then there was a time where like I got to a point, I think I was at like K followers for this account. And it was just on my energy. Like we weren't showing anybody else's. Sometimes we show the community. And I was like, they need to know who I am. Like if they don't know who I am when they're coming in, they're not aligned and they don't know yoga. They're not attracted to real yoga. And I realized real quick of like, that's not real energy at all. That's so egotistical. And you can have a spiritual ego also. It could become like, just like in music or basketball, you can become bigger than your britches. And then it's like, what are you really in it for? So these gals who do call themselves healers, yeah, I do have a bone to pick with them too. I'm not saying that all women are divine feminine and should be worshipped. Like if you're not fully aligned with it, what does Lauryn Hill say? How are you gonna win if you ain't right within? Like literally, you're not like fucking looking at yourself and holding yourself accountable. What is your intent? You just want to get a bunch of followers for what? For money?
And what I like about you, you basically said in regards to men that operate on a lower level and that we're supposed to uplift people like that. You have that intent. This is where me as a person, I draw the line because it's like, okay, I speak positive, which is a good thing. I want to uplift other people. But that energy that they take from you, giving that you're putting out there, they have to return that. It's almost like a loan.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a loan. I love putting positive things out. Not that that's my main goal is to go out there and be like, okay, here you go, rainbows and Skittles and all stuff like that. But it's kind of like I put the energy out. If it comes back to me, it shouldn't be tarnished. It should make change. And if it does make a positive change, yeah, y'all can keep that. Don't use it and then bring it back to me when it's tattered. And then I have to go back and do the process again.
Ooh, that's like everybody's relationship.
You see what I mean? Like, you're doing good things. You come from a good area. You people go
I
through.
mean,
You can
I feel like I do, and I really appreciate you seeing me like that. Feels so good to be seen and validated. I live for that. I used to huff that shit like it was powder. I mean, I'm for real. Like, and with these old ladies that I teach yoga to, I love it when they're like, that's the best I've ever, blah, blah, blah. And I always put that out there because if you're not tooting your own horn, who's going to toot it? But then at the same time, it's like, it's not real. I go through very dark moments where it's like, am I betraying myself for money? Like sometimes you have to do stuff you don't want to do. If you're not independently wealthy, you sometimes got to go to work.
Leia,
And
let me tell you something about you. The first show that you ever did on Killah Priest's podcast, not the one that you and I was on, that was the second, the first one. And I know I sound crazy for saying this, but I can feel energies even when people room. I can feel it, and I'm not even there, but I can feel it through what people type and things of that nature. When you was there the first time, if you felt the energy in the chat room, it almost felt like someone took a gong and was like, boom, and it kind of, the noise radiated, and it just felt like a subtle, like a subtle energy of I can't explain it. It's like a subtle drum roll, but then it felt like, yo, you controlled the narrative. That's all I'm saying. It's like the energy of the chat room aligned with you right there and then. I can't explain it, yo. It's almost like a subtle, I don't know, but it was good. It was good, and that's needed.
I really appreciate your sound mind, because you understand vibration in the form of sound, and that's a different type of mind. For example, like Finesthetics, being able to like be clever and say public figure. I never looked at it that way. And that's like what I appreciate about good hip hop lyrics, is when they make you like, you see things in a completely different way. And like only OGs know that. These kids are crystalline children coming in with the new genetic code after 1997. You know, like everybody who was born in those years, they're special, but they were fed like fake food or something. Like, I don't even know, like the music just doesn't, it's not the same. It might rhyme, but there's no reason to it. There's no like soul to it anymore. And it's really sad. It's really fucking sad. Like, we need to bring it back. I bet it's going to make a comeback. Well, supposedly Tupac never died or whatever.
You know, it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit weird, and
what do you
knocking anybody's
how did you
music.
get into like making beats? How did you get into like music and shit?
Oh, wow. It's funny you say that. Like, when my father first came to this country, to the United States, when he first migrated here, he was living in Tennessee. So he would listen to country music. He would listen to country music. I remember growing up in his household, I would only hear
genre I can't really fuck with, man.
old school though, old school. I will remember listening to African music, country music, that was pretty much it for him. And then I remember we were listening to an NWA tape and LL Cool J, and he barged in. He's like, yo, what are y'all listening to? He was like, yo, this NWA. And he just took the tape player and bow, like just broke it in half. He was like, I don't want that kind of music in my house. Like, whoa, straight up. But it was his influence when I would listen, because he was he liked the beat. He liked the beat. You know, he would like the way the music. And then me, I got into the beat as well, and I just started forming patterns, and I would say to myself, yeah, this is an excellent song. So it would influence me. Like, we started like any other kid would. You had like a ghetto blaster, like a boom box with the 2 tape decks, and you hear a song on the radio, and then you'll record that song on a cassette tape, and then you put the other cassette tape on it, press pause here, let that one play, press pause there. It was kind of like a beat tape thing. So that's how I kind of started with that. But like my family members, all of them had like an eclectic.
I had access to that, but I never did it like that.
That's the beginning stages. That was the beginning stages, you know. But it's like, and I was always that type of kid. You know, I was a weirdo. My dad would, when I was a little boy, to everybody else, he's like, yo, he ain't one of us. He's an alien. He's adopted. He ain't one of us. And I'm like, but I look like y'all. He's like, oh, he ain't one of us. Y'all leave him alone. He's an alien. I was the weird one. Like I would skateboard and all of that. You know, I would listen to like punk music. I listen to rock music. I didn't care. As long as it had a good beat, I would listen to it, you know? So that kind of molded me to where I was. But then I officially, you know, if you scratch the little stuff I would do with the tape decks when I was growing up, I started producing officially when I got to China, because it's like I had a set schedule. I would either play ball, I would make my money, I get my shekels playing ball, and after that, I would go and work at a school. And if you have 2 jobs over there, you get in trouble. That's illegal. So I had to play basketball like underground. After that, if I didn't have to play like in a tournament or anything, I'll go to the park and just play by myself, eat, shower, then I'll just make music, because over there is nothing but cigarettes and alcohol. And I'm not trying to go down that route, you know, like I'm talking about, yo, Chinese brothers, those brothers can drink, yo, they invite you out, yo, it's nothing but cigarettes and rice wine, like alcohol. Yeah.
Oh, I would love that.
Yo, food everywhere, yo. Like Lazy Susan spinning around like this, all kinds of food, you know, and then alcohol, and it's kind of like, yo, I mean, don't get me wrong. I like going out a smidgen every now and then and partying and whatnot and hanging out, but I was always the type, my family, we just kept to ourselves. You see what I'm saying? So I would just after that, if I didn't go out or do anything in particular, I just go home, listen to music, start making beats. So I did that to kill time. I just do it for fun. A lot of people, they do it to try to get money. I don't care about that. I do it for the love, you know, because it's something I fell in love with growing up as a kid. So
did you play instruments?
No, I got kicked out of band. I got kicked out of band. I was imitating a Power Ranger and I kicked somebody in the face. I played a tuba.
Oh my God.
I played a tuba for like 3 weeks and I got kicked out, yo. I mean, you got to think about it. Yo, Leia, the Power Rangers, they were playing in America. That's the edited American version. We were getting the ones from Japan that was strictly Japanese. They shooting and killing and people are bleeding and dying. So we got the real stuff from the 80s. The stuff they were playing on TV here, that was for the kids. You ain't see no kid get in trouble in America for imitating the Yellow Ranger and kicking somebody in the face like that. You ain't never hear that, you know?
God, oh my God.
Yeah, but Leia, like seriously, yo, you got some healing factors to you. It's like I was scrolling and I seen that one thing that you had. I don't know how you did it, but you hit that little, maybe that's the noise I was feeling. When you hit that boom and it started vibrating and stuff like that, the noise that was echoing, that is the noise that I felt that day when you were in the chat room, the first show you ever did. And it's almost like it came from the top down and the bottom up, cleansed like certain people's behaviors. You got your little people in the chat, and shout out to the chat room. They wild out every now and then. Yeah, they wild out.
I was time with that. Like I told you, like I couldn't really keep up and like talk, and like I don't know if I was supposed to respond to it or it was very bizarre.
Just ignore it. Just ignore it, because I don't pay attention to it whenever I go, because my energy is weird. When I'm not even looking at it, but if something that I meant to see randomly pops up for some odd reason, it's like I'll just turn like a ninja and just look, and I'll zoom in on it, whether it's funny or if it's something that's belligerent. But I don't pay attention to it because I don't want to laugh. I don't want to laugh.
I don't like, how do you know like who, because you can't tell from a picture. Some of them don't even have a picture, and then it's just so fast. And
You,
it's just a lot. It's like,
you
I'm not a YouTuber. I know that that's a big function of it. And I can go back and kind of, when I'm not trying to give energy, I can listen to what they're saying and then read the chat and then understand the humor. But when you're in it, it's really hard to like, they started, I think, I don't know, he said they weren't roasting me, but it kind of felt like a roast a little bit. And I was like,
no. They were not roasting you at all. It's this one guy, any energy, but okay. Me, when I first started on the show and I was in the chat room, I'll call people out. I just would, because it's like I'm sitting there watching. I know what I saw. I'm like, yo, XYZ is this, XYZ is that. And sometimes, I give people the proper respect that's due. But it's always that one person that wants attention to take the spotlight. I've peeped that. If it's a female that's a host on the show, there's always one guy that feels insecure about himself. So he wants the attention taken off of him. I'm off the female to be focused on him. That's not good. Like, that's hater stuff, And then once people latch on it, then certain people will make jokes. But from what I was seeing and what I got, I saw nothing but positive vibes. That's why I kept saying, yo, you need to come back on the show. You need to come back. Look at the statistics. It keeps rising. Look at the
but just hopefully that, well, if they're into yoga, because it seems like the content of the show is very varied. It's like whatever he feels like talking about. But I love the spiritual aspect of it, the history. What the preacher was talking about was like really on point. Like, he's extremely knowledgeable. I really enjoyed that conversation with him. It was just, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to contribute. He seemed really like he wanted to share with us. And yeah, overall I would, I have to get over my issues of like about women, you know what I'm saying? Like, I really, that was a sticking point for me, because it's like, maybe I will share my opinion about it, maybe
Leia,
that's something that could be shared.
Leia, you got to understand, a lot of, and I'm not talking about all of them, a lot of American men are insecure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just being, okay.
I mean, it's our culture,
I've heard it's plenty of instances in African culture back then when it was the village. Wasn't nobody insecure, and they thrived. They thrived. In China, although I'm not going to do it, the men, they carry their women's pocketbooks. And I'm like, yo, I remember asking my mother one time, hey, Mom, can I have some money? She's like, yeah, hand me my purse. I'm like, I'm good. I don't, I don't want any money. I don't, because it's like, I'm not carrying your purse. I'm not carrying your purse. But in China, the dudes, I'm like, yo, you're carrying your wife's purse? Yeah, that means that I love her. And I'm like, well, I was born in America, but okay, that's your culture. It is what it is. A lot of men are insecure. They are. And that's where some of the aggression, when they're saying these things about women, like in their rap song, where it comes from. That's what I like about Killah Priest. He don't talk bad about women. He don't even curse on his songs like that. He don't use curse words. That shows you the type of intelligence he has. A rapper that uses curse words 24/7 is slow. Because they can't find words to match. That means they have no substance, unless if they're just doing it to sell out and get an easy check. But you got to think about it like that, yo. A lot of men are insecure. The fact that, and I respect you because the hierarchy and stuff like that. Our backgrounds, we were taught to be submissive people. Respect your wife, respect your husband. We was taught to be submissive. But a lot of these men that get on these rap songs talking about women and stuff like that, calling them dogs and hoes, and rightfully so, some should be labeled as that, equal to men as well. But a lot of them doing that and saying those because they're insecure because a woman is smarter than them. The woman pimped you out your money. She pimped you out your money. Yo, only thing these hoes want is money and blah, blah, blah. And she took me for, she took you for your cash. So now you feel resentful. Now you got to put it on a rap song so you can vent. Not knowing that you're sitting there repeating the cycle. Repeating the cycle. There's a guy on Instagram, and see, I don't like guys like this. Took out a girl. I guess this is what they call these type of girls in America. They call them a stud. You know, the girls that dress like dudes with low haircuts. And okay, you're gonna put a girl on your Instagram page and put it in big captions when you take a stud out to eat and you pay for her dinner. You got the girl over there crying like, oh my God, people never did this for me before. And the guy's like, yeah, ain't nothing. I told you and pay for it. Why do you have to broadcast that? That shows to me that you're fake. That shows to me that you got an agenda. What are you trying to do to her? How is she trying to fit into your needs? Why do you have to broadcast that? Certain things like that shouldn't be told on the internet. What are you trying to gain? That's all it is insecurity. And with that little stud thing that I said, the man that did that, because he's competing with a woman. That's all it is.
This is really deep. I've never thought this deeply about it. I don't know why.
Leia, think about it. If you go out there and heal somebody, and you know you healed the person, you're not going to go out there and brag about it. You let what you do show itself. Now, if that person goes out there and tells other people, Leia healed shop, that's a different thing. But if Leia healed one person and she goes out there, I did this, I did that, I did this, like, look what I did. Like, come on, yo. You got to let your aura and your energy speak for itself. And you do a good job with that. That's why I feel
I do like to flex a little bit. You know, I am still a Libra. I like to do a soft flex.
So,
you know, sometimes I get ready for those pictures and
nice
environment.
It ain't nothing wrong with that. I like to do a little, that's your word. I like to flex every now and then too, right? I got like 8 vegan fur coats. I got 8 vegan fur coats, right? Because I don't kill animals. I got vegan fur coats. You see what I'm saying? I don't kill animals. I got 8 multitude of colors. I like to wear them.
Are you a vegetarian?
Yo, can I tell you the truth?
Yeah, I'm open. I mean, it doesn't affect me at all. I eat meat.
I'm getting to the point where I'm cutting off lamb because, like, you know, growing up in a well, we didn't eat pork. Like, it wasn't fair pork. We ate like how people that operated in the Judaism era, we ate things of that nature. It's to the point now I only feel comfortable eating fish because I feel like those animals, right? Because if you want to take it back to those back in the days, you know, the garden, because nobody was really dead. Animals, human beings were just eating vegetables. You wasn't eating animals like that. Mosquitoes were not biting humans and sucking their blood. They were eating fruits. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of like one day I'm cooking lamb. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm about to eat some lamb. I finished cooking it. And I wash it, of course, and washed it. I don't think I seasoned it. I put salt on it, put it in the oven, and I washed my hands like at least 4 times, 5 times. I could not get the stench from my hands, and I felt like I committed murder. I couldn't get the stench from my hand, and I said to myself, you know what? I'm not eating lamb anymore. I told you on the show that day. I'm frying the ground beef. I'm a wet dog. And I'm like, why am I smelling a dog? And sure enough, I Google it, and the website said, help me, my ground beef smell like wet dog. And you know what people would say? Just season it. Just season it. It's the reason for
Garlic
that.
and onion. I told you to do onion and garlic first.
That's what they were saying on the internet. Yeah, just season it. It'll make the smell go away. That's what they were saying. Like, no.
Yeah.
That's like a psychiatrist trying to heal somebody with medicine, but they didn't get to the root problem. It smelled at the door. And I said, you know what? No more ground beef. So I'm down to chicken and fish now. And I'm starting to eat chicken alone because I feel bloated when I eat it.
Yeah.
Fat. I take off the fat and everything. I feel bloated when I eat it. So it's like, you know what? I can't do that. Beef, if I eat like beef that, you know, like a sirloin or something like that, it clogs up my system. It feels like the motor in my stomach is taking it a long time to process. So it's like fish is all I can just deal with right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel bad for animals sometimes. I remember I was over there. You go to a fish restaurant, you got to pick out the fish that you want to eat, and it's in a tank and it's swimming. And you go to them, you tell the Chinese man, you say, yes, sir, boss man, I would like that fish right there. He pulled out the fish, put it in the bucket. The fish is like it knew it was about to die. The fish jumped out the bucket. He will put it in the bucket, he'll jump out again. Put it in the bucket. And I said to the girl I was dating at the time, I was like, I don't think we need to eat this fish. Whatever, they all act like that. And sure enough, when they brought it out and it was prepared, and the fish fought for his life not to go back there to the kitchen. When they brought it out and it was prepared, I mean, it tasted good and everything, but I felt kind of guilty eating the fish.
Mm.
Like, you ever think there's a reason they can't blink their eyes, yo? They just sit there, like, that's torture. A fish has to sit there and watch 24/7. Imagine if you can't blink your eyes, yo. You know how much trauma that would cause?
I never thought about that.
And then you got to eat that. So you eating all the trauma the fish put the fish saw. Like, come on.
But do they respond to it the same way? Like, they're not going to know that it's trauma. You know what I mean?
They were here before us.
Mm-hmm.
Fish,
that's true.
Fish and animals, they're from the earth. This is their land. Here, us, we're just travelers.
Mm.
We're just travelers.
Yeah, I'm not going to want to eat any tilapia now.
Leia, I learned this from living in West Africa and from being in China. It's certain that I would see that were almost like spirit guides.
Mm.
I'll give you a prime example. When I was living at my mother's house, because I first came back from China in 2020, I stayed at my mother's house for a year to get myself together. My mom does not agree with marijuana. She's a doctor, right?
Oh, interesting.
She doesn't agree with marijuana at all. Not even prescribed marijuana. So I remember as a little kid, Africa, whenever I would see a squirrel, and this is from being in nature, whenever I would see a squirrel, which was rare in West Africa because they got flying squirrels there. Whenever I would see a squirrel run out and I'm outside by myself, that means that automatically somebody is about to come out. So I would see a squirrel. 5 minutes later, here comes my brother or my dad walking to the side of the house. And I'm like, yo, that's kind of smart. I started abusing my powers. My mother would go for an exercise walk. And I'm like, oh, okay, mom's gone. I can't smoke in the house. Let me go outside and smoke. So I'm smoking outside, right? Smoking weed. Then I'll see a squirrel and it's like, oh, shoot. And I put it out. And then sure enough, here comes my mother walking up. She's like, why does it smell like marijuana out here? I'm like, I don't know. Somebody was chefing in the back. Somebody was doing a cookout. That ain't weed.
What was her reasoning? Why didn't she like it?
Because she goes, you're Afro-Asiatic. You weren't born with that stuff in your system. Why do you need to utilize it now?
I actually see that point of view. I mean, according to Chinese medicine, the kidney is the root of life. And it is, any psychoactives will tax the root of life. It does take energy from you in the act of it, whether you're eating it, consuming in any kind of way, and then the effect that it has is taking up energy. So I mean, it makes sense. I'm always just curious as to, like, whenever somebody's super against it, anything.
She later on got a little bit liberal with it. She was like, okay, if it's a gummy bear or something like that, and edible, okay, whenever you do it, just don't come around me trying to talk and laugh and have fun and all that, you know. But yeah, that's what she would tell me, because you know,
Why mom didn't want to have fun?
My mother's an Aries. She's staunch. she's like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love Aries.
So
Aries is the opposing to Libra. Yeah, I fuck with Aries heavy because they're all about the great I am. And I feel like Jesus was an Aries, like, you know, the radicals.
I could see that.
Yes.
I can see that, either an Aries or a Taurus.
Yes.
Possible.
Because for sure, rebellion.
Yeah, later. I could see that, because like, if you think about Odin was allegedly like the main god, and he's represented like a ram, and then Zeus, which would be Jesus, was kind of like a bull, like a slave, because Aries is the head, Taurus is the shoulders.
Yes.
So I could see that. But yeah, long story short, yo, the finish answering your question, very sensitive when it comes to animals nowadays, yo. People like, because here in the South, you eat gators, you eat raccoons, you eat squirrels.
Who's eating gators? The fuck?
They eat it here in the South. I'm like, yo, what? A gator?
You ever eat a gator?
Oh, goodness. Like, yo, I don't even eat catfish, let alone a gator.
I don't know. I can't try it yet.
You know, they eat squirrels, they eat possums, they eat gators, they eat you name it. You name it, yo. Like, certain things I wouldn't do. But then again, in China, I mean, yo, I done seen them eat some crazy things over there too. So
yeah, how's the food? Is it so good? I love Chinese food. I feel like I've never had a real Chinese meal.
that you said that, because you know, and I know, you know all too well, the stuff that they serve at those little restaurants is not the real thing.
But they have a Chinese restaurant wherever you go in America. Like, you could be in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska and there's a Chinese restaurant. Like, I can't find Filipino food unless I'm in California. Literally, actually, just California. There's nothing here. I think there's like one in Tampa. And it was like shut down.
I never thought about that. They where I am, they don't have Filipino food either.
Well, we are very underground people. Like, my family doesn't like that I'm so public. That's been a huge issue, I think, just generally speaking, on a subconscious level. They like to hide. It's not that they think that I'm not good, but it's a protective mechanism of like that women like shouldn't be out like this because somebody's gonna like take us, you know. So I actually did go private recently because I don't know if it was being on pre-show where I got a lot more views, different folks on my stuff, and I just got very paranoid. I think it's all the cannabis I smoke and stuff like that. But as far as Chinese food, I feel like I haven't had real Chinese food.
Yo, if you ever go, trust me, you'll have the time of your life, yo. They're gonna bring it out to you in a tray. What I didn't agree with was, you know, if I'm sitting there eating and I'm being watched, like, they're literally just staring at me like, Like, yo, do you want some? Like, but
Who was watching you? What the fuck?
like the restaurant workers, they
Oh my
to
God.
bring the food, and being that my complexion and they know nothing of my background, it's kind of like, let me study how he eats. Let me watch his mannerisms, you know? And you know, and it's like, oh, like, look at everybody else over here. Why are you looking at me? But nah, what it is, they'll bring it out to you in a tray, and
Is it like noodles?
very wholesome.
Mm.
Thank you. That the noodles there is not those noodles that we used to eat as kids. Those noodles there, when you eat it, you go to the bathroom right after because it processes your stomach faster. Yep. And those noodles are long, and they're layered. You can't come over there. You go over there as an American. Can I have a spoon and a fork? They're gonna look at you like, what? You baby.
Oh, I'd be fine with that. I love chopsticks, but we don't use them in the Philippines. We use our hand.
That's what in China, Africa, China, you either use your hands or exactly use your hands. In China, it was your hands and your chopsticks. West Africa, it was your hands or like a spoon or a fork. I forgot which one, but yeah. Yep. If they look at you as a baby.
What kind of food is like West African? Is that like you're having curries? I would think like curry.
Kosher foods.
Kosher. Oh, right, because of the Hebrew. See, I find that interesting that there's Hebrew genetics there. Is like Africa. I find that very interesting.
Yeah, it's weird, yo. Like, because from the information I got, I'll give you a prime example. I'll show that to you. Let me see. So this right here, this is our family's crest right here, right? I don't know if you can see it clearly. Let me see. Right there, right? And
oh no, does it have your name on it?
It has the name of, well, maybe you can pull it up on your computer. That would be better right there, because me holding it like this, I can't. Well, okay, I'll show you this. I'll show it like this. That right there, the phoenix right there.
I love that.
You see the crown, you see the Egyptian hand right there holding the thing that the pharaohs would hold, right?
Yeah, what is that?
You remember the pharaohs back then? They would hold that little what was it called? Not a wreath, or
like an ankh?
Like a kind of like a scythe kind. Right there. Kind of like a scythe. And then you see the words right here, W-U. You see Chu and Wu. Right? Just Semitic language right there. That's all it was.
Interesting.
From what I was told by my parents and our tribe, we migrated from to West Africa. So the language that we speak now, and I'm pretty sure there was a lot of, because the Chinese and the Africans used to do business long time ago. They were real close. There was a lot of island hopping back then. They used to do a lot of business. So I'm pretty sure with their influence and ours, you got Egypt, boom, migrate to West Africa. And the same language that the Egyptians spoke back then, which was Hebrew, is the same language that we speak. And it goes back to what I told you. If you look at the Pharaoh, when you got his picture, there's always gold, and you got the slanted eyes, Afro-Asiatic feature. That's all I can come up with. If you go and do the research, back then, the Chinese did not like to work with Europeans at all, because they did not want to change their religion. They did not want to change their religion. So that term that we get nowadays in America, when somebody says, oh yeah, Chinese people are yellow, that came from European people. If you go to South Africa, they only have two races that they have over there that they classify you as. Because you have Chinese people in South Africa, you have the native black people, and then you have Europeans. South Africa, they either call you black or white. They consider Chinese people black. They consider the South Africans black. They consider the Europeans white, even if they were born in South Africa. So, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of our background. It has to do with, it's pretty much Egyptian culture, like fused into one, which is weird.
It's just very heavily encoded. Like there's so much that is contained in both the Hebrew, like strokes of a Hebrew brush when you're writing that script. I don't know what it's called. And then the Chinese pictograph. It's like, that's so much, that's so many codes coming in. I think that it's from another planet. I really do, or like another dimension.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that. Because you ready for this?
Is this some alien shit?
You have a Chinese woman, right? And you shave her head completely bald. And you see how they have the slanted eyes, right? If you paint her skin gray, doesn't she look like one of those gray aliens you would see on
alien.
TV?
Yes, I have always thought that about myself.
There you go.
I've always said, like, my head is just really large for my body. And if you just put the gray color, I could look like one of those gray aliens.
We're not from here.
Have, like, other unseen powers that nobody understands.
Think about it, yo. Look at Mars. Look at Mars. If you remember, and I can neither confirm or deny, but back then I would see pictures of the atmosphere or the landmass of Mars, and they would have pyramids over there. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why would it? I'm saying maybe the land or something formed in this shape, or something happened to that place. It got deserted, and then people came here. Maybe we've just been planet jumping. And then I start thinking, why is it that astronauts are trying to go to the moon? And if they even went, they're trying to go to the moon. They're not going there just to check it out. They're going there to try to form some type of community. Who knows?
Yeah. Colonies, yeah. I don't believe in any of the moon landing. And actually, I'm one of those people that thinks that the Earth is a plane.
I'm glad you said that, Leia, because are you ready for this? Anytime you see a picture of an astronaut in space, number one, or on the moon, is always the same background. That's number one.
Every time. It makes no sense, though.
It's always the same background. Number two, they take a picture of them. Where people are dumb. This is for the smart, dumb cats out there. All you got to do is look at the astronaut's helmet, the glass, when somebody takes a picture of them, and you'll see the background that they're on Earth. Look at the astronaut's reflection of the person taking the picture on his bulb, his little helmet, the glass, and you'll see the person holding the camera like this without any astronaut clothes on. It's all special effects. That's how I knew to myself. I said to myself, maybe a camera been up in space, but a human being? I don't know. I don't know.
I think it's levels of consciousness, things you're attuned to and frequencies. It's what I really believe. I want to like have a sound logical like thing for what I believe, but it changes every day because I'm really open. Maybe it is a spear. I don't know, but it just doesn't really make sense. Like I've read all of those CIA documents or whatever the Pentagram released a couple of years back. I actually read through them because somebody online was saying like, if you think flat Earth is flat, you're just you're just dumb. And it's like, well, I want to know why they think that. So I had to learn why people would think Earth is flat. And then I really looked into the citations in the Bible and in the Sumerian texts and the scrolls that they've found and translated. It's referring to the firmament. It's referring to that there's an end to it, like Truman Show, like there's a fucking wall. Like I could see that. Like it makes sense to me, especially living in Florida. I feel a lot of energy here. There's a lot of energy here. I don't exactly know what it is. It could be, like I said, the humidity and these spirits that stick or whatever, but I know some shit has happened more than what they tell us in those museums. The Smithsonian knows.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of
Well,
energy.
thank you. I don't want to like keep you on this for too long. Usually mine lasts an hour. And we went, I just realized like we went way over an hour.
Yo,
So I'll have a
it's funny you say that. Go ahead. I'm listening. You're too smart. I was. It's like I felt like I'm trapped in time. I still felt like it was 10:30.
I know it did. It's like time stopped for a second. And because I wasn't on my phone. And whenever I'm in nature, I'm in like my garden right now. So it just feel, and I have water. We live on a bayou. So there's like water and it feels like the morning time and it's very hot out. And then I looked at the clock. I'm like, holy shit, I gotta go.
Yo, this has been a pleasure. This has been a pleasure, yo. I love your energy, yo. I'm willing to do this anytime. Don't call away. Let me know, yo.
We got to do a part two because I had like 18 subjects I was going to talk about. I actually wrote it out, but then it just kind of flows when we're speaking. That's why I was texting you when I was on Priest Podcraft because I was like, oh my God, I need somebody that I can like jive with, just some of your content. I like music a lot. I like beats a lot. And the fact that you make beats and that I like them, it's like, yeah, that's what it is. That's musical. It's almost like a musical collaboration. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time so much and your energy, your knowledge, the codes that you brought to the table. Like this is so helpful for the people who are listening.
Thank
It's
you. I
healing
appreciate you.
our perspective masculine.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Leia.
Thank you. I'll send all the links when I get them up. I will. I will text him.
That. Say no more. Thanks a lot, Leia.
Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take it easy.
Okay, I'll text.